Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Hotlanta. Man, is it hot here today? All right, just coming out of the hotel. We arrived in Atlanta early this morning and getting ready for a show at the Tabernacle tomorrow. We're all still kind of buzzing from last night's show at the Ryman. Fantastic show last night. My man Ben Montench put on a show last night, dudes. I'm telling you, I have been with this band and these players for a long time. I have not seen Ben Montench do what he did last night. It was really something. I have never seen him actually drive the band like he did last night. He just had one of those magical nights, and I know he loves that venue. We were talking about it before the show. He's done other shows there. You know, funny enough, I've been with Tom, 21, 22 years now, and we've never done the Ryman. The Heartbreakers have never been there, and Ben has been in there with some other acts, etc. I've been in there with some other acts doing some things. So, it was just kind of a cool thing. I'm gonna head down this way here. So he just had an incredible night, and it sounded really good in there last night. The local guys really helped us out, gave us great access to the PA system. We used the in-house system, etc. And my man Andrew Dowling actually did a really nice job. I took advantage of his local knowledge. He's done that gig quite a few times. He lives in or around Nashville, I think, and he had done it quite a few times. So I really leaned on him heavily yesterday, and it came out great. We had a really, really nice show there last night. And talking to Ben Mont, it kind of got me, as he often does, he kind of gets me thinking about things in certain ways, that I normally would not think about. And we didn't sound check there obviously yesterday. We haven't sound checked with Tom and the band. Even Mudcrutch. We just don't do it. We rely so heavily on virtual sound check to get it all set. But I picked up on yesterday when the instruments were on stage, and we were just kind of bouncing through some of the instruments and just listening to the guys, the crew guys, kind of warm up with their instruments, etc. It really started to dawn on me, how special some of these places are. And I don't know whether it was by design or whether it was by accident, but there are a few venues, usually legendary venues throughout the world, that just have this kind of magic sense to them. And maybe it's not magic, maybe it's pure math, maybe it's just really good. But what I'm driving at is, it kind of dawned on me yesterday, that the Ryman is one of these places that you could, if you had the right band up there, if you had the right music and the right band, you could just have instrumentation on stage. If you had people that know how to play in balance on stage, if you had a drummer who knows how to play in balance and in context, and even if you had amplified instruments on stage, if people know how to do that right and keep the balances right on stage, you could do that room with just vocal reinforcement. You could just do a PA that did strictly vocals in that room and have it work. The instruments just sounded fantastic coming off the stage. I remember yesterday, our keyboard guy, Nacho, playing the keyboard. We were working on the organ a little bit, and he was playing it, and I just remember listening, and I was just amazed at how many places within the room I could kind of localize the organ. It sounded like it was coming high off the ceiling, off of a sidewall. It just sounded kind of glorious, And it kind of started dawning on me, if you just had that and a well-placed vocal in that room, you could pull that off. Big band, orchestra, it wouldn't be rock and roll by any stretch of the imagination, unless you're talking about really, really early rock and roll. Then that might work. Jazz, things like that would so work in that environment like that. And there's a few rooms around the world that work like that. It's really, really cool. And it really started to drive me to think about other things, kind of thinking about the industry as a whole and where we've gone with audio over decades of time here. It got me thinking about, in the earliest days of this, what drove a lot of the engineering for audio and a lot of the design, etc., was for the home user to be able to recreate or recapture the concert experience in their home. And it was usually things like jazz, or it was maybe, you know, symphonic, philharmonic, things like that. And, you know, the stereo system, the home stereo system, was designed with the agenda of, let's recreate that in the home, right? So room acoustics were, you know, a big importance there, because the room acoustics were actually going to support the orchestra or the pop ensemble or whatever it was going to be. And, you know, the idea was, let's just recreate that in the home environment with a stereo speakers. I would even submit to you that probably helped drive the concept of stereo, you know, trying to create that wider image, you know, that localization of left information versus right information, you know, maybe strings versus woodwinds, etc. So it drove the whole thing. And once you kind of take that in, you can also start to process that over the decades, that has flipped completely upside down now. With the advent of the way that we now record music, and when I say now, I mean over the last 30, 40 years. Most we went to multi-track, where we started close miking instruments, you know, taking the acoustic space out of it, making these highly impulsive recordings, meaning great impulse, not just I did it off the top of my head. But making these things that really, these recordings that really don't sound anything like the band would if you just walked in with a microphone and started listening to them, right? It's not the same thing at all. You know, we start close miking, mixing these really compact, really punchy, compressed mixes. You know, that really has nothing to do with what a band would sound like in a room without a mixing console and without speakers. So it kind of dawned on me that actually what we're doing now is kind of taking the home experience where you listen to those records at home, and we're trying to recreate that live. Where, you know, we just basically set up a big stereo live and try to recreate that, which I think is really fascinating. And it also makes me kind of wonder, especially with all the kind of, you know, the virtual reality stuff that's coming and the immersive philosophy that's coming for audio. It's on the horizon. It's making me start to wonder, I wonder if we're going to flip it back around the other direction now, where the home experience or the personal experience is going to try to recreate what is actually happening at the concert again now. You know, it's amazing how this all kind of goes in cycles, right? And, you know, I could probably talk for hours here on this with regard to how it has impacted acoustical design and architecture. You know, because obviously those guys, in many ways, even though we kind of bag on them sometimes, they're trying to accommodate. You know, they're trying to accommodate what we're trying to do with these performances. You know, great guys like, you know, like Sam Burkow, I mean, totally gets this. He really does. He gets it in his designs and understands this, I think, really as implicitly as a lot of people do. And it's, you know, it's just amazing to see how the architecture and the acoustical design has kind of chased this over time, but it's always kind of been on the lagging edge from my perspective, you know, where we have a lot of rooms that were designed with, you know, free acoustics in mind, meaning, you know, not necessarily designed to have a speaker in the space, an electroacoustic speaker in the space, but just natural instruments. And then when you put a speaker in there, the whole thing just kind of goes crazy. So, you know, the two different design philosophies are really, really important to take into account. For any of you guys that have been to my seminars and clinics, you know, we talk about this kind of stuff all the time. So just, you know, these are things I think about on days off. I don't know about you. At any rate, I'm going to head back to the hotel here. I'm going to kind of get into office mode for a little bit. You know, I got a little bit of Avid work today. Got to catch up on some expenses. You know, continue the thought process, continue to revel a little bit in last night's gig, and hopefully pull it off again tomorrow. Interesting enough, we're at the Tabernacle tomorrow, which is a very similar design in many ways to the Ryman. I think they were both churches. I mean, call it Tabernacle. I'm guessing it's probably a church, but going to be very interesting to get in there and see how that one turns out as well. At any rate, great night last night. Thanks to everybody in Nashville who showed up. Thanks for all the very, very kind comments on the sound last night that you guys sent to me. Really, really appreciated. You know, it's kind of a notorious room. It can be a tough one. You know, it's an interesting place. It's very, very different. It's a story of two rooms there, really. one empty and one full of people, and they sound, wow, way different. Way different. So you kind of be ready for it. I don't think we would have been served at all by having the band come in and sound check yesterday. We probably just forced us to dig into a hole that we would have spent the first 4 or 5 songs digging back out of once the crowd got in there. All right, enough of me blathering on here. I'm going to grab a coffee. I'm going to grab a laptop. I'm going to grab a calculator and start doing corporate expenses. Yummy. All right, guys, I'll see you. I'll check back in with you maybe a little later today. We'll certainly be checking in tomorrow and see how we go. Wish us luck. Have a nice day. We'll see you guys. We'll catch up with you later. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.